Welcome to the February 9th, 2022
Recording in progress.
meeting of the Oceanside City Council. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order and begin with roll call.
Mayor Sanchez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Kime. Here. Councilmember Jensen. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Hoorah.
Councilmember Weiss. Here.
Thank you. Please stand for invocation. This evening we have Dr. Kadri Webb, who is the senior pastor at St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. Good evening, Pastor Webb.
Good evening, everyone. Shall we pray? God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Father, it's Oceanside again, standing in the need of prayer. Not Vista or Encinitas, or Carlsbad or Escondido, but it's our city, Oceanside, that seeks you tonight. Before we get down to business, we begin with the basics of seeking you. We ask now for your holy presence to fill this chamber. So much is uncertain, but here we are in need of you. Tonight I pray for the convicting power of the Holy Ghost to speak to each heart on the dais. For Mayor Sanchez, for Deputy Mayor Kime, for Councilmember Jensen, Councilmember Rodriguez, Councilmember Weiss. As decisions are made, keep them selfless and not selfish. Keep our vision broad and not narrow. Help us to know that we are not perched here to maintain status quo, but we are here tonight to effect positive change, understanding that whatever we do for the least of these, we do for you. I pray also for the citizens of this city. Father, give us the strength to stand and the courage to press on. And above all, help us to be the change we want to see. Let thy kingdom come, thy will be done here in this place, on earth as it is in heaven. In the name of Jesus the Christ, born in a stable, born in a poor town called Bethlehem, born to unwed parents, worked as a carpenter, a man who hung out with and served the poor, your son, one who died at the hands of an unjust criminal justice system all too soon, and yet and still is the one who is our risen Lord. In his holy name, the name of Jesus the Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Webb. Please continue standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We've got a proclamation and a recognition, a very, very important recognition. So we're going to start with a proclamation. If we could have Satya come, and who else from the NAACP, because this is Black History Month, the National Black History Month in the city of Oceanside. Come on down, Satya. Do you have anybody else that'd like to be here? Inez? Dr. Webb, maybe? Yeah? Robbie, yes, Robbie. Anybody else? You know, one of the things that makes Oceanside so special is the diversity of our community and the fact that we're always striving to be a better community. And it is with a lot of love and respect that that we talk about this proclamation in honor of Oceanside National Black History Month 2022. Whereas the city of Oceanside takes great pride in recognizing February 2022 as National Black History Month, celebrating the many notable contributions that people of African descent have made to our country and to our city. And whereas African Americans share a history of great struggle and sacrifice by men and women who came to these shores as slaves, in chains, considered as chattel, and by their descendants whose rights as a people in our country continue to be systematically denied. And whereas Negro History Week was first established in 1926 by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, ASALH, under the leadership of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, famed African American historian known as the father of Black history. And whereas in 1976, ASALH expanded the celebration of Black History Week to a month-long celebration of Black history, followed 10 years later by Congress in 1986 with Public Law 99-244, designating the month of February as an annual public and private celebration of National Black History Month. And whereas this year's national theme for the observance is Black health and wellness, reflecting a history of underserving the health needs of African Americans, beginning with slavery, Jim Crow laws of whites-only hospitals and other medical institutions and offices, until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 desegregated hospitals. Widespread disparity of access to quality health care continues to this day, as demonstrated through the COVID pandemic. And whereas the City of Oceanside is committed to equity, inclusion, and the cultural and racial affirmation of our youth, parents, staff, and community members who identify as African Americans. And whereas the City of Oceanside's goals must include closing the equity and outcome gaps for African Americans through policies and practices that reflect the experiences of our African American community, ensure greater access and opportunity, honor their history, heritage, and contributions, and establish a venue for the continued dialogue between our African American and other diverse communities, such as by reestablishing the Community Relations Commission. And whereas the vision of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, is to ensure a society in which all individuals have equal rights without discrimination based on race. And whereas the North San Diego County NAACP, created in Oceanside in 1965 by Charlesetta Allen, has worked judiciously and tirelessly for the achievement of equity, equality, and social and racial justice in Oceanside and the region through its many programs and efforts, and by pursuing relationships with elected officials, insisting on inclusion and fairness in processes and outcomes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Esther C. Sanchez, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2022 as National Black History Month in the City of Oceanside, and call upon our residents of Oceanside to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and reflections, and to continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, equitable, and prosperous for all, here in Oceanside and throughout our country. And I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic to Satya, who is the president of our NAACP of North San Diego County.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you again to everyone. And so I love the verbiage on here, especially about the Community Relations Commission. So I'm holding everybody accountable. So I definitely look forward to making strides and new changes in the City of Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. This is, as I said, very critical. Oh, yes. Picture. Thank you. And as I said, the African American community here in Oceanside has been very, very critical to the development of our city. in terms of achieving that kind of quality of life for all of our citizens. So I want to thank you for your leadership. And as we go through this, and I know we're also going to reestablish police community relations, right? So there are a lot of things that we're all working on to ensure that every person, regardless of who they are, can have the same opportunities as everyone else. So thank you very much. And now, you see, we're still standing here because there's another really, really important thing that we're doing tonight, and that is a very, very important presentation. The City of Oceanside enjoys a very, very close working relationship with the NAACP of North San Diego County. And one of the very, very important things that we do together is a yearly celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as part of that, recognizing someone, and there's so many really, really well-deserving people. One person that really shows what community service is really all about. And here to talk about that is the chair of the Housing Commission, Inez Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez. Good evening, everyone. As Mayor stated, I'm Inez Williams, and I'm the chairperson for the City of Oceanside Housing Commission and the chairperson for the City of Oceanside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Service Award. Annually, the City of Oceanside City Council honors a resident of Oceanside or Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton with the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Service Award. This award is given to someone who exemplifies the philosophy and ideas of the late Dr. King, who worked to advance civil rights, equal education, labor rights, voter rights, and who fought for racial inequality through nonviolence and civil disobedience. This year we had 5 nominees for the award, and I can tell you it was a tight race. Any one of these 5 individuals could have won this award, and in honor of them, I would like to announce their names just for the record of who was actually in the running for the award. We had Ms. Robbie Haas, we had Mr. Jimmy Figueroa, we had Mr. Eric Joyce, Ms. Bianca Lopez, and Mr. Ed Becerra. So all 5 of these individuals were nominated by a member of the Oceanside community for this award. And I am proud to announce that the Martin Luther King Community Service Award Selection Committee selected this year Ms. Robbie Haas to receive the City of Oceanside Dr. King Community Service Award. Congratulations, Robbie. And so we're gonna we did this event at the Dr. King Prayer Breakfast that was hosted by the North San Diego County NAACP, and unfortunately you were not able to be there. And so on behalf of the City of Oceanside, we have this beautiful plaque that we would like to present you with. We also have a certificate from the City of Oceanside that we would like to present you with. And we have a special presentation coming from the California legislator. This is from Tasha Berner-Harvest's office. Congratulations. Now, as is customary, when someone receives the award, we ask them if they would like to have a few words. So would you like to have a few words? Of course you do.
Just a few words, and mainly to say thank you. Mayor Sanchez, City Council, MLK Committee, I am honored and humbled by this award. Thank you so much. I do what I love. I love the City of Oceanside, and I am very happy and excited to be a member of this community. So, and I thank everyone else for all that they do. There are so many people out there that do a lot for our community. So congratulations to all of the other nominees, and I feel extremely special, so thank you.
You are very special, Robbie, and I know you've lived here, what, for...
Back up so I can take a picture for you. Together. Here we go, one more time. Got it. Thank you.
Robbie, you've lived here over 20 years, and we talked about, I met you back in the day. We were really young then, right? So anyway, but Robbie has been working with the Boys and Girls Club and helping with the kids there. I mean, she's just really devoted her life to service here in Oceanside, and from all of us at City Hall and everyone else. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you heard that Rudy said she's famous now. Well, she was before, but now even more so. Right, we're at closed session report. Mr. Mullen?
Mayor and Council, there was no closed session. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Consent items.
Move approval.
Thank you. Items 3 through 6, with 7 having been pulled by the staff, and there's a motion.
We do have an item pulled by a member of the public.
My apologies. I should have asked for that.
Item number 5 has been pulled for discussion.
Okay.
Joan Bachman.
Is there anybody else?
No other items have been pulled by the public.
Okay, so let's just do 3 through 6. Okay. Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Now, item number 5 is approval of a public works agreement with Rancho del Oro Landscape and Maintenance, Inc., in the amount of $348,924 for a 2-year term for the landscape maintenance of El Corazon property, and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement. Ms. Bachman.
Hello, my name is Joan Bachman. I'm here representing Friends of El Corazon and also as a resident of Oceanside. On this particular item, we want to talk about it because the current management of El Corazon is really farming invasive plants more than reducing them. And so I want to see some changes in this contract that would result in that. The specific one, on the screen right now, I have one up that is pampas grass. That is not particularly a problem on El Corazon, although in Loma Alta Creek, it is rampant and getting worse every year. It's also showing up in florists and flower arrangements, so we need to stop that plant. This is in Spanish because I didn't have any in English, but I think we can all understand alto a la invasión and maleza for weeds. So the weed on El Corazon is the mustard. If you go there in a few months, it will be beautifully yellow, but if you look a little closer, it's very toxic yellow. And what's happening is they're letting it bloom because someone thinks it's pretty, which if you know any more about it, it's not. And it just ends up setting seed. And so every time we let it bloom, we just set seed. So what needs to happen is that the mustard is mowed right as it starts blooming, and that it's mowed repeatedly. It's a lot of acreage. But what's happening is that we are farming a weed, and it's going all over the city. And I'm sure Public Works has taken it out in many, many other places. I'd also like to see some kind of a requirement that the invasives are being reduced rather than expanded. Because right now they're being expanded on El Corazon. And even with all the development that's happening, we're up to speed on everything going on with the arena and the housing and all of that. There's still a lot of acreage. That's only about 60 acres of the 465. So I do want to see that. And just a reminder that Friends of El Corazon did plant about, I think it's 500 feet of wall that requires almost no maintenance as you go up El Corazon. So El Camino. We can certainly do this, and I want something in there that I don't come up against a brick wall of someone who says, no, we have a contract and there's nothing you can do. I want to have a way to work on this problem with Rancho del Oro. And they've been doing it, and it's been getting worse, so we need a change. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have a ban on pampas grass, arundo, and one other I don't remember, but I don't think that mustard.
And tamarisk. However,
Tamarisk.
there was a state law from the horticulture industry that may have negated that, unfortunately, as bad as that plant is. It's
What, tamarisk?
Yeah.
Tamarisk?
all of them.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of work to do. And pampas grass is a resurgence with the boho people, and we have to stop it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that was item number 5.
Approval of 5, staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Motion and second, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, and we're now on general items, and Ms. Larson, is there something you wished to address before we get to the only item number 8?
Yes. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Before we proceed with the presentation for item 8, I would like to formally introduce our new Financial Services Director, Jill Moya. Jill has been with the city since 2019, serving as Finance Division Manager, Accounting Manager, and as Interim Financial Services Director since November of 2021 when Jane McPherson retired. Jill is a native of North San Diego County and earned a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Sciences from UC Berkeley, a Master of Science in Accounting from the University of Colorado, Denver, and she is a certified public accountant. I'm excited to have Jill leading our finance team, and I congratulate her on her new position. And I do think this is the first time she is presenting before City Council as well, so best wishes.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jill.
Yeah, so I might need, thanks.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call item number 8, which is submission of the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 through fiscal year 2026-2027 general fund 5-year financial forecast for review and request direction to proceed with developing a fiscally sustainable budget strategy. Ms. Moya?
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Deanna. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. As Deanna said, my name is Jill Moya, Financial Services Director. Tonight we will review the city's 5-year general fund forecast for fiscal year 23-27. This forecast is an important tool that the city uses to project the costs of maintaining current service levels, as well as how operational changes would affect the general fund's future financial status. Following best practice, we update our forecast annually and use it as a tool to help us develop a balanced general fund operating budget for the next year. Revenue projections from our 2 largest general fund revenues, property tax and sales tax, are developed using technical forecasts created by our property tax and sales tax consultants. Staff's analysis of current economic trends and past trends and our estimates of future development are used to forecast the remaining general fund revenues. The expenditure forecast is built by using prior year's expenditure budget and adjusting for known or expected changes. We include CPI increases if deemed necessary per economic outlook projections, and we include known and estimated salary increases for all city bargaining units. We also include any known changes in operations or positions, as well as estimated future CalPERS costs as calculated by our CalPERS actuarial reports. For the first year of this forecast, we are projecting 9.5% growth in revenue compared to the current year's budgeted revenue. The largest increases are expected from property tax, sales tax, and transient occupancy tax. While this percentage increase is higher than in prior years, we still consider these projections to be conservative and in line with our consultants' projections and current year's revenue trends. For our expenditure forecast, given the current economic environment with higher inflation rates than we have seen in many years, our forecast includes 5% increases in maintenance and operational costs with 2% increases in the following 4 years. Our forecasted expenditures also include all known and negotiated personnel costs and placeholders for increases in future years. CalPERS costs are estimated to increase by $10.5 million over the next 5 years. These increases are included in the forecast as well. The forecast assumes that we maintain current service levels and does not include any new programs. This graph shows prior year performance of our three of our main general fund revenues: property tax in blue, sales tax in orange, and transient occupancy tax, or TOT, in green. The dotted lines to the right show our projections for these revenues for the next 5 years. While we are projecting growth for all three of these revenues, we still consider this growth to be conservative and in line with past trends, as previously noted. Our last CalPERS actuarial report projected an increase in $10.5 million over the next 5 years, and these increases are built into this forecast. While this is a significant projected increase, note that the percentage increase is projected to decrease each year. This is in part due to the city's workforce moving to a higher percentage of PEPRA employees each year. Currently, 51% of our active employees are PEPRA. When we include retirees in the calculation, as shown in this graph here, 44% of all active members are PEPRA. This graph shows the classic versus PEPRA mix of all active CalPERS members, including retirees for both miscellaneous and safety plan, and how the mix has changed over the last 5 years. As our workforce moves towards a higher percentage of PEPRA employees, we expect to see our pension liability decrease. One way we have been actively managing our CalPERS unfunded liability is making additional one-time payments. Per council policy, 50% of the general fund surplus at fiscal year end goes to pay down long-term debt, which in the past years has gone to paying down the CalPERS unfunded liability. Additionally, the savings from prepaying our annual required contribution to CalPERS goes to pay down our unfunded liability, as well as 1/3 of our interest earnings. You can see from this table that the city has paid a total of $34.7 million toward our unfunded liability over the last 5 years. We expect these additional payments, along with the workforce changing to more PEPRA employees, to result in a decrease over time of our unfunded liability. This graph shows how the projected value of our unfunded liability from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 33 is projected to decrease over time per our last CalPERS actuarial report. Using all of the previous noted assumptions, we are projecting $187.5 million of revenue and $184 million of expense for fiscal year 22-23, resulting in a $3.4 million surplus. It's important to know that the surplus is projected to decrease in the outgoing years. For example, in fiscal year 24-25, there's a projected surplus of $1.3 million. This is an important point when considering adding any ongoing costs. Staff is currently working on the fiscal year 22-23 budget using next year's forecasted expenditures as our baseline. We will be holding the budget workshop April 13th for council's review and input of the preliminary budget. The net surplus of $3.4 million will allow for some one-time items and some minor new ongoing costs, keeping in mind that the surplus for year 3 is only $1.3 million. While the forecast allows you to see the general fund's projections for the next 5 years, it's also helpful to remember that through responsible stewardship and future planning, the city has built up the reserve balances shown in this graph. The first bar in orange shows the city's healthy city reserves and economic stabilization reserves of $31.5 million. These funds are reserved in the general fund and available only as a temporary revenue source in the event of fiscal hardship. The next 3 bars in green are additional reserves held in the general fund. The first green bar shows the pension reserves of $23.7 million. The second green bar shows the infrastructure reserves of $18.6 million. These funds have been set aside in the general fund for future capital projects and deferred maintenance needs, such as the San Luis Rey River project and pier maintenance. The third green bar shows $10 million that have been set aside for employee costs, such as workers' compensation and retirement payouts. The total of these general fund reserves is $83.8 million, or 49% of our general fund annual operating budget. The last 5 blue bars are capital project fund balances, such as general capital projects, which is funded by transfers from the general fund, transportation, parks, public facility, and drainage funds, which are all funded by development impact fees. Together, they have a balance of $23.1 million, and the use of these funds will be decided through the annual CIP budget process. That concludes this presentation. Staff recommends that City Council accept the fiscal year 23 to 27 General Fund 5-year forecast. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any requests to speak from the public?
There are no requests to speak on this item.
Okay, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Great job, Ms. Moya. Thank you for that presentation. Welcome. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, and I'd move approval on staff's recommendation. I also want to thank our city manager, Ms. Lorson, for her hard work and assistance the last year and a half you've been on board. The future of our city looks very, very positive, and I'm very thankful for your service.
Anyone else? Second. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? No. All right. The recommendation was also to give direction to proceed with developing a fiscally sustainable budget strategy, which is part of the motion. And definitely we have been able to do that every year, even during really hard times. And the things that, and we each had a chance to talk to review this with staff, this report. By the way, welcome to, welcome. And I'm sure that we have a list of things that we would like to ensure as we go forward, a sustainable budget going forward. And of course, the things that are not so stable are the gas tax, which is what we use for our roads, to fix our roads. And that is a very, very critical part that we need to continue to look at and see ways that we can continue to ensure that we fix our roads and avoid any kind of liability. Traffic calming is something that has been put on the back burner for, I don't know, I want to say over 10 years now. So I understand that staff is looking at that and to see, because traffic calming at some point becomes a public safety issue. So I'm real glad that staff is looking at that. And of course, public safety, which is, you know, the city has always had its own police department, fire department, and the growth that we have been experiencing really also, it's tied to, that growth is tied to the rise in demand for services and rise in response times, which we are always reminded And not just the public safety, but also recreational demands, which, we're constantly also being reminded what this community would like to see. So I look forward to what staff, the budget workshop. I'm sure that we will be joined by members of the public. We will no longer have the masks, so yay, we'll be post-pandemic. And I really look forward to all of us working together to try to increase the quality of life for all our community. Thank you. Let's vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Do we have public communications on off-agenda items?
We do. We have one speaker, Arlene Hammerschmidt.
Excuse me. Good evening, council and mayor and staff sitting here. Arlene Hammerschmidt, rural-ish, Fire Mountain. This doesn't really fit anywhere else on the agenda, but in not a neighboring city, but another city in Riverside County, council members are giving direction to the map makers as to where the lines should be.
Is this about the redistricting? Then I would ask you to wait until item number 9.
My bottom line is I'm urging council to restrict their comments to direction only.
Is this, ma'am, is this about redistricting?
It is about redistricting.
Okay, let's go ahead and wait for that item. I'm going to ask you to wait for that item.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Worries.
No other requests to speak at this time? Okay, let's take a break until 6 o'clock. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and resume the agenda for the City Council. We're on public hearing items that are time certain, so it is 6 o'clock now. Item number 9 is presentation of a report from Q2 Data and Research LLC on the visualizations of the redrawn City Council district boundaries in accordance with California Elections Code 21621, and initiation of a live drawing of the draft map based on public feedback. I'm going to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from the council, from our my fellow council members regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff, public. Staff and public.
Staff and public, and I attended some of the hearings in the community.
Staff and public.
Staff, public.
Ms. Navarro, do we have any correspondence and or petitions?
All of the correspondence has been submitted to the council prior to the meeting, including all submitted maps from members of the public.
Thank you. And so we begin testimony with you, Mr. Navarro, our city clerk.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and council members, tonight is just, we're nearing the end of our redistricting process. We currently have done 2 public hearings, and we have finished all 4 community meetings in all the 4 districts. There is a PowerPoint presentation, but it's the same PowerPoint presentation council has heard before and members of the community have heard at all the community meetings. And that PowerPoint presentation will be available online should anybody wish to view it again. So you are cleared for takeoff there.
Well, I think my fellow council members wanted to see it again. No, not really.
But we figured that tonight would be beneficial just to jump into the visualizations of the maps and discuss the communities of interest, which I think a lot of members of the public and members of the council are more interested in. Tonight we have Jane Hood from Q2 Research and Data, who's been our demographers on this process and have been at all the community meetings and virtual public office hours as well. So I will toss it over to Jane if you want to talk and take over.
Thank you very much. Good evening, council, and good evening, mayor, and everyone. Thank you for joining us here for this public hearing. It's great to be in Oceanside, and thank you for the opportunity to work in your city. So tonight I'm going to keep it as brief as possible and show you the 2 new communities of interest maps that we received. So we've received some duplicate submittals. We won't go over those again. You saw them last time. We are going to go over those 2, and then we'll jump into the 3 visualizations that we've prepared for you tonight. So I'll start with the communities of interest very quickly. And as you'll remember, they're going to appear on the map in a color. So this is here in blue, up here by Douglas Drive. We have another mobile home community of interest submitting, and this includes actually all 7 of the communities, or sorry, of the mobile homes that are in this area. Currently, they're split between districts 2 and District 4, and they request to be kept together in one district. Yes, thank you, mobile home parks. And then the second new community of interest that we can share with you is about Jeffrey's Ranch and the South Morrow Hills community, and they request to be kept together as a community of interest that shares rural life and other common interests. So those are the 2 new communities of interest for your consideration. And now I'll jump into the 3 visualizations that we prepared based on council direction from the previous hearings, as well as public input that we've received. So this one is called Visualization A, and I should start by saying that these are starting points. This is an iterative process. You can like these maps, you can not like these maps. That's what we're here to hear tonight, to get your direction on how to make these better. And at the end, choose multiple or just 1 draft maps to post on your website, which will be revisited at later feedback hearings. So this is the first option, option A. And you'll see here, the direction was to keep your boundaries as close to your current boundaries as possible while trying to balance that population. You'll remember that District 1 was underpopulated by a good amount. And so we increased that population in a few ways. First, we did keep together a community of interest over here, which was along River Tree Drive, where they're currently split between 2 and 1. And you'll notice that's what this sort of longer piece going up here is. It's in order to keep these homes that are right here together into District 1. We also reached up to grab some of the mobile home parks here and put them into 1 to increase the population. And so that moves those mobile home parks, I believe that is the Mission Manor and San Luis Rey, into District 1. District 2 is now at 0.22%, so very similar to where it is right now. District 3 is at 3.66%. And I'll remind the council and the public that these numbers are representing how high above or below the districts are with population. And so we want to aim to be within plus or minus 5%, and these districts do that. And then District 4 is at minus 3.33%. So if you have questions about these maps or would like to go into them in more detail, I'm happy to do that later. But I will go now to map B. This is a slight variation off of that, but it changes the boundary between 1 and 4 slightly up here, again in that mobile home park community that we've heard about. And so I'll zoom in here, and I just want to note that here the boundaries are kind of running through some of the neighborhoods. So this is unfortunately just how the census blocks are drawn here. It's a little tricky to have, the boundary drawn, and we have to follow those census blocks. So just want to point that part out. But essentially, this is a similar map to A and your current boundaries, with District 1 at minus 3.76%, District 2 again at 0.22%, District 4 at minus 0.13%, and District 3 again at 3.66%. And then finally, the last option, C, is pretty much the same as B. You have that same boundary up here between 1 and 4, but we include one more COI, our community of interest, in the Aztec or Blue Ridge, a neighborhood that we heard requesting to be moved from District 4 to District 3. And so that's what this area does here. And so that takes 3 to 4.25%. So those are your 3 visualizations we prepared for you. Again, this is an opportunity to change these maps, live draw and change them tonight. You could select one of these or two of these that you think work well. You could throw them all out and start from scratch. It's really up to you all how you would like to proceed. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to your direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have requests to speak by the public?
Yes, we do. But just real quickly, I forgot to mention that we do have translation services available in the back of the council chambers if anybody requires translation services. We do have one request to speak, and then this is a public hearing item as well.
Right.
So our first request to speak comes from Jimmy Knott.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I wanted to point out that there could be a margin of error that has been ignored. And that is that it has not been examined, shared, or taken into consideration. And that are the nomads of Oceanside. They were counted, but they live in what my brother called a non-conventional form of housing, like recreational vehicles, trailers, within RV parks and things like that, up to 1,500 people. Numbering also into that with people that live in tents or for some reason cannot find shelter. Those are some of the people we refer to as homeless. And we know that if you take and you block off or take and move them, they move to another area. But they were counted as well. And if you look at the Housing and Neighborhood Services, the media, Oceanside PD, that number's up to 500 people. And that's 483 according to Phil Deal of the San Diego Union. He agrees in that number about that. So you have all these people, and then you have another group. And this is children or relatives of people who live in Oceanside, parents, grandparents, etc., that are here not of their own choosing, but because of economic ties. Then you have another group, military, that have to take and be here for a short period of time and then are moved. These are temporary residents of Oceanside that need to be deducted out of the aggregate, that have not been deducted out of the aggregate. They do not live exclusively in one district or another, but they should be taken out of the margin of error, out of the total. And that would reduce the numbers that you would have to deal with. So I hope that you would take and look at this a little bit more seriously and have our consultant take that information and plug it in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it for those that submitted a request.
That is correct.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. This is the time for the public to speak on this item, which is item number 9 on redistricting. If you wish to speak, please approach one of the two podiums and provide your name, and you can speak for up to 3 minutes.
And just one more additional note, if anybody submitted a map and wishes for our demographer to pull up the map, I believe you could do that, Jane. Just let us know before you start your 3 minutes, and that way Jane could pull up your map and you could refer to it on the monitor. All right, Arlene.
Good evening. Arlene Hammerschmidt, rural-ish Fire Mountain. This is not input on a map. I don't have a map. I am urging council tonight to limit your input comments to direction only, such as keep gathering public input and encourage public to submit maps. Because in one other city in another county, council has come out in support of one specific map, though it was drawn by a member of the public, that's real close to, like, one step away from personally gerrymandering and trying to retain your own district, which is, we don't want that look. We want to avoid looking like gerrymanderers. So even coming out in support of a map drawn by the public, just don't touch it. It's a bad look, please. Also, remember that council is supposed to keep an open mind until voting. And there is a vote for council to put one map forward, I believe. That's like the last step in this process. Let's not jump that gun. So I urge you please to stay away from showing a preference for anyone and keep looking good. Oceanside, keep looking good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I start, is there any way that we can show overhead? Jimmy, you're so. Thank you. And Zeb, I support the Balanced Neighborhood District 3 map. And I'm going to have. Okay, I haven't started it. You got the map up? Oh, you have to change that for the map, right?
You have to switch between two things.
Okay, okay. Well, I'll go ahead and then he can switch it and we'll put it up. Yeah?
Yeah, once he takes that off, we could switch it over to Jane's laptop.
Okay.
And I could show the Balanced Neighborhoods map.
All right.
Is that the one you wanted, the Balanced Neighborhoods map?
The Balanced Neighborhood map.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready. Thank you. Good evening, Council. My name's Sherry Mackin. I'm an Oceanside resident, specifically speaking South Oceanside. Many are concerned about the current boundaries of District 3 and would propose a new district is drawn using the boundaries of South Oceanside, Fire Mountain, Seaside, and Loma Alta and other communities directly east, like Henny Hills and backside of RDO. I sent documentation sharing the commonalities of South O, Seaside, Fire Mountain, and Loma Alta. Tonight I'm going to focus on what we do not have in common with the current boundaries of District 3, starting with schools, PTSOs, social interests, culture, transportation, and sports. Families who live east of College do not attend Oceanside schools. They attend either Carlsbad or Vista schools. Families that live east of College Boulevard, more than half of the District 3 attend Vista schools, and south of Lake, Carlsbad schools, whereas South Oceanside, Seaside, Loma Alta, Fire Mountain attend Oceanside schools. If you'll note, please, we have dangerous intersections in South Oceanside. We also have not so safe route to school. Not many people like putting their kids on those streets. South Oceanside, Fire Mountain, Seaside, and Loma Alta have struggled with the unsheltered population in our neighborhoods. We have a large amount of theft. In fact, there were 2 vehicles stolen, 2 vehicle thefts in South Oceanside this week alone. We have vandalism and burglaries in our neighborhoods. Not that long ago, we were able to leave our bike on the porch, but unfortunately, that is not the case now. You see, we don't live in gated communities. Most services provided for unshelters are located on Oceanside Boulevard in the middle of our neighborhoods. Is that the case in RDO, Mira Costa, Tri-City, and Ocean Hills? No. South O and Fire Mountain are affected by the expansion and of Interstate 5 and 78. There was a proposal to close both Cassidy and California streets. Will the people in RDO, Mira Costa, Tri-City, and Ocean Hills be affected? No. Streets, highways, and water bodies. We've got 7 projects on the Coast Highway. Coast Highway Vision Plan, Loma Alta Creek Restoration on Oceanside Boulevard, decommission of La Salina Wastewater Facility, Buena Vista Lagoon Restoration Plan, Coastal Rail Trail Plan, I-5 corridor improvements, and the 78 I-5 interchange. We share that with the Seaside neighborhood and those who live in that thoroughfare. Does RDO have to deal with it? Miracosta, Tri-City, or Ocean Hills? Absolutely not. I do want to put into the record as well, Tony Atkins' letter talking about SB 9 and SB 10. HOAs and CIOs will not be affected.
Can you
We don't
complete
have
your
any
comments?
HOAs. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. This is the time to speak if you wish to speak on this item.
Can we get the balanced neighborhoods map up? Good evening. My name is Lisa Hamilton at 323 South Ditmar. I live in District 1. I don't know in what order the city's districts were constructed, but the existing District 3 appears to be something of an awkward afterthought. South O along the coast did want to stave off the two-lane coast highway and over tall buildings, but it has very little in common with the district on the east side of 5 that is along the 78 and also gated communities. Coastal South, though, communities of interest are very much the same as communities of interest in District 1. We have the same homeless problems, the same parking problems because of tourism and hospitality, the same lack of sand on the beaches that people moved here to access. More inland areas of District 3 have few or none of these problems. I don't see anybody putting up 8-story developments in neighborhoods east of I-5. The homeless like coastal living too. They get on the Sprinter and ride west. So we get them, even if they may live or hang out east of the 5. I support the map called Balanced Neighborhood Map. This would change the borders of District 1 and 2, getting coastal communities of interest together to allow better problem resolution. This map would also get communities of interest in Ocean Ranch together with similar communities east of Interstate 5, which are now parceled out between the present districts of 3 and 4. I support this map, and I recall that during the final hours of that long, contentious districting meeting, we were told that district boundaries could be changed after the 2020 census, not just adjusted a little bit or tweaked, but changed. Please seriously consider these changes and the balanced neighborhood map. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Okay, I'm going to go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez and council members. My name is Terry Johnson, and I'm a lifelong resident for the city of Oceanside. Next month, there'll be 70 years that I've been a resident, 7-0. And 5 years ago, I participated in the process. I did not draw any maps. And this time I thought maybe I might want to participate and give my 2 cents. I also like to thank Deb Navarro and his staff for all the help they gave me. They were very patient with me. And Ms. Hood, you too, because I have never done this before. And I struggle with all the information that I heard from staff given that the city council gave staff last month regarding tweaking the map and not doing any major changes. And I attended the past 4 community outreach meetings recently, and I listened to all the input from the residents in the meeting and on Zoom. And I still struggle on how can we make this fit for most of the residents in the city of Oceanside. So I did a couple maps, and I finally submitted one yesterday. And if you could you show that to everyone? That's what I submitted. And granted, no map by anybody, done by anyone, is going to please everybody. You're going to piss off a lot of people somewhere, and that's just the way it is. So having said that, I want to thank staff for all that they're doing. I want to thank the council members for the service they're serving, because it's not easy. Having been there, it's difficult, I know. So please consider what I have submitted, and thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the meeting. There we go. And there were a couple of questions that were posed, and I'd like staff and/or the consultant to respond to that. Mr. Knott talked about margin of error for, basically, he described a mobile community within Oceanside. What is the law with respect to using the census? Can we go outside of the census numbers?
Yes, thank you for that question, and I totally hear and understand where that concern question's coming from. The law requires that we use census data from the most recent census, so that's 2020, provided from the California statewide database. So that's legally the data that we are using and have to use.
Thank you. And I think the second suggestion that was given by Ms. Hammerschmidt is that council should somehow be restricted in what they can do at this point with respect to giving direction, coming up with ideas about how to balance the numbers.
Yes, so I think if I understood that correctly, my response would be that this is an opportunity for this to happen in public, so we can hear the deliberation, the considerations that the council and the public are making on these maps. So I would encourage the council to speak openly about the input and give direction clearly, so that we can have an idea of where these maps are going, and the public can weigh in at future meetings, based on their opinions on what gets done tonight.
Thank you. And that was my experience in participating in the county effort, that the Independent Redistricting Commission actually very much participated in practically all of the hearings. So, and that is actually live with the public is the time to be able to do that. So, all right, Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you. I have a question for the city clerk.
Yes.
So we got one more of these coming up.
We technically have two. We have one more public hearing where we are looking for direction from the council on draft maps, and then we have another city council meeting where the city council will vote on the final district map. Yeah.
So are we going to, at that point, be like showing 14 different maps that we all get to have to pick, or how are we going to narrow the field down?
Well, that's the direction we're trying to get tonight. We're trying to get specific direction on how many draft maps you would like to present. If you want 14 maps, I'm pretty sure we could try to develop 14 maps. You could give us 3, 4, 1, 2, or even just toss any of the visualizations we have shown you and say, you know what, I like the Balanced Neighborhoods Act map, or I like Terry Johnson's map. We're looking for that specific direction tonight.
You could stop his time at that point. I wanted to say something at this point, and that is, at the last council meeting, we did give direction to the consultant. There were 2 people who said on the council who gave direction that they'd like to see more of adjustments. And then the other one was my suggestion that we see 2 or 3 maps. And I see that there were options today. So that's the direction we gave last time, and that's why we see what we have today. Please give back the time to Councilmember Weiss.
Yeah. I won't be needing the last of my 8.5 or however many minutes. So if you're looking for specific direction, one of the I like the idea, particularly in the downtown area, of keeping at least East Side and Crown Heights together. To be honest with you, the Joel's map to me is tweaking what we already have, and I'm comfortable with that. And the Terry's map, it's an interesting concept, and I think I'm okay with that too. I think it's going to be hard to just narrow them down to one, because as the mayor said, we're going to piss somebody off no matter which one we pick. But if you're just looking for input, I like either of those 2.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you to the public and staff and the consultant for putting that together. I honestly don't like any of the maps, the 3 maps that were presented. I really would hope that we can get more public involvement on in the next coming weeks. When is the deadline for this?
Line is we have to get our maps in by April 10th, I believe?
17th.
17th. No, 7 days off.
All right. You know, we're coming up to crunch time. I would really like to see a lot more public feedback. The feedback I've been getting is the meetings have been pretty slim. So I'd like to see more public feedback. My dynamic is I'm thinking, okay, the next 10 years, we have a state that is putting a lot of pressure on building near transit. So we're going to have a lot of building in downtown, in my mind. And our populations are going to grow, in my opinion, in the current existing districts 1 and 3. So when we're trying to balance this out, I would like to allow room for growth on the coast and then maybe pack it up a little bit, you know, on the east part of our city. So that's one part of the feedback I'd like to provide. The second part of the feedback I'd like to provide, I actually liked former Mayor Terry Johnson's map. That was a really interesting concept. Thank you for bringing that forward. I appreciate you spending your time and figuring out how to get this submitted. I actually like that concept a lot. So that's the second part of my feedback. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Any other requests to speak?
Yes, Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Keim.
I just have a quick question for City Clerk Navarro. So you brought forward those 3 examples, right?
Yes, we call them visualizations because it's just visualizing the feedback we submitted and direction from council from the last meeting.
And those visualizations, is that the best composition from what you've heard? Or that's kind of how it made sense when you drew them?
I would ask our demographer, because she's the one that analyzes and takes all the feedback and does the visualizations.
Yeah, so these visualizations are based on the input that we've received and council's feedback at the last hearing, as has been stated. These are just starting points for you tonight. Basically, tonight we're hoping you can live map a little bit. If none of these work for you, say how, you know, what's wrong with them, what needs to change, and then see how that plays out so that at the end of this meeting, you have at least one, if not more, draft maps that you'd feel comfortable posting on your website as your draft maps. So, you know, obviously you guys are the experts and we are just here to execute what you and the public want to see.
Okay. I mean, all the 3 are pretty similar, minus a couple little variations. If we just went forward with those 3, they're even very similar to former Mayor Terry Johnson's map as well. I like the Balanced Neighborhoods Act, but again, or map, but I'm concerned that like Councilmember Weiss said, it splits the East Side and Crown Heights. I think that's important community of interest. I would, if we're going to make a motion and give staff direction just to go forward with the 3 maps that the city clerk has brought forward. I think city clerk has done a good job of running this process. But again, this will also give us time going forward to make any of those changes as we need, because I know tonight we don't have as robust of a turnout as I imagine we'll get when we get into March, because I've heard a lot of feedback from email. So I know there are other opinions that are planning on coming out. So I think those are a good base, and it'll give us a chance to tweak it a little bit going forward. So.
Okay, let's give Councilmember Jensen a chance to speak.
Yes, I had a question. Is there any...
Councilmember Jensen, can you use your microphone real quick?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Minimum, maximum requirements for these percentages?
Yes, so
5%.
For the population numbers, that's our first criteria. Under the Fair Maps Act, we have to have balanced districts, but you do have a little wiggle room. So that's plus or minus 5% deviation. So all of those percentages on the map show that all the maps we've shown are within plus or minus 5%.
Okay. So they can go negative 5%?
Yeah, that would be a question for your lawyer to advise you on, but generally that's the window we stay within.
Excellent.
We would like to be under that number.
Okay. So is there a target number that we're trying to hit?
We don't want to exceed the 5, but to the extent you could make them more balanced, I think we would encourage that.
And generally, going a little bit higher is to perhaps keep a community of interest together, keep a neighborhood together, having a reason why there's maybe a higher deviation.
Okay, and are we taking into consideration the future growth that's already in the works right now?
And so that's something you all can think about and weigh in your minds, but it's not one of the criteria that redistricting gives us from the Fair Maps Act. We basically have to take that snapshot in time of the census and use that data because it's the most accurate and complete count we have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and if I could say a couple of words and then, okay. I was looking at these maps and based on the direction that was given, I was trying to figure out where District 1 could pick up because they're under by 8, almost 9%. And that was what, about 6,900 would get it within 5%? Was that something like that? I may be off a little bit here. So I understand how difficult it is. This map, Terry Johnson's map, actually takes out a part of South Morrow Hills and Jeffries Ranch, which have specifically requested to stay in District 2. So I'm actually concerned.
Stay in District 2 or stay together?
Stay in District 2. Yeah, they've requested to stay in District 2. I believe that was at the meeting that where Terry presented his map. There was testimony by someone at Jeffries Ranch who wants to stay in District 2. The other map, which is the balanced map, it does split the East Side community and Crown Heights as well as the Valley. It's not something that it also dilutes the protected class in District 2 as well. So I'm very, very concerned about that. So looking at the options of one, could you show those options 1, 2, A, B, and C? Because I was trying to figure out what the differences are. I think C is just adding that small portion, right? That community that wants to be in District 3. Huh? Yeah. Was there a community of interest? Is that community like somehow it goes in there?
Yes, so we heard, let me show, so this is the area that the mayor is speaking about. And again, our direction was to make minimal changes. This is a small change. This is an example of a minimal change. If you'd like larger changes or different changes, please direct us on those. But
is that part of a community that somehow got split between 3 and 4, or is that just adding more into District 3?
That's just adding more into District 3. It's currently fully in 4, but some of the comments we received said it might fit better with 3.
Okay. So maybe options 1 and 2. I don't know about 3. If it's not a community of interest.
My just only feedback I heard, I haven't seen the comments directly, but if we actually had residents that requested that, I think that's important.
1, 2, and 3 would be fine with me.
I think that.
Not 1, 2, and 3, excuse me. A, B, and C, sorry. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Sorry, I forgot to mention one more thing. I think for clear direction, we have 4 districts. I think we should have 4 maps. We have a choice to choose from. Sounds like there's some consensus around the direction staff is going. I would just like to encourage my colleagues to prepare for the future, to know that a lot of the growth is going to happen near the coast, and to maybe try to balance that out as a part of the next round of maps that we receive, and given in direction to the consultant to take that into consideration and try to, District 3 is already above, is plus, and we know that growth is definitely going to happen in District 3 near the coast. More in District 1, don't get me wrong, but definitely District 3 will grow. And so if we could trim some of the population, whatever way that looks. But I would like to see 4 maps when we meet next.
May I ask a follow-up question, Councilmember Rodriguez? So just to clarify, after tonight, you will select however many draft maps you'd like to post, and then I will not touch them, and the public will see them on the website. So essentially, any changes you want to see to these, we should execute them tonight before you post them on your website as draft maps. So do you have any specific areas you think you would like to see 3 lose that population in?
I would defer to Councilmember Keim in District 3 on areas that maybe could be given that would fit better in maybe 4 or 1 that are kind of splitting right now.
Could you show?
Is there a major road that maybe we can just follow that? I don't, I would default to his district, but I think District 3 and a lot of the maps was just overpopulated. I think we need to trim that down some, knowing that we're going to have future growth in those communities.
Could you show options 1 and 2, these 3 side by side, or is that?
Yes. So this is option A, and that's at 3.66% for District 3. And then option B is at the exact same percentage, the same district. District 3 is not changed between A or B. And then in C, it's the small change we just spoke about, which is the Blue Ridge Aztec area here along College Boulevard.
So,
was there an area, Councilmember Keim, out of your district that could be cut away appropriately and given to District 1 potentially? That would make sense from your perspective?
Of course,
because Districts 1 and 3 have very similar coastal issues, and so as you head east, then you start getting into unique communities and communities of interest that hopefully we hear more from the public on. But District 3 just seems a little too populated from my perspective on, being a coastal district.
Deputy Mayor Keim.
So with here, I don't know what the projected growth is going to be. And I mean, 3.66%, I mean, if I have 40,000 people in District 3, 3 or 4,000. I don't know where where we would cut that out that doesn't split a neighborhood, especially when that's the one thing about District 3 is essentially it's everything south of Oceanside Boulevard except for the Season Streets on the eastern part of the city, which is a big dividing corridor. And so it'd be challenging for me to sit up here right now without numbers. I don't have a projection of what kind of growth there's going to be and to do that. So that's why it'd be tough. I mean, it makes sense that's why I asked for the last meeting because I was much higher. I was at 4.5 or more, and then District 1 was at -8. So I thought there would be something on the border that would make sense. But again, also, Oceanside Boulevard, when you go south on Coast Highway, that's significantly south of Oceanside Boulevard North are significantly different areas.
I think the feedback I would give maybe for the 4th map is, can we reapproach this as a new balanced map version that attempts to keep as similar shapes as we have as possible now to balance out the population. So, the other balanced map I saw, it really extremely changed the dynamic of the districts. I want to see something a little bit more, keeping with the shape. Obviously District 1 is going to have to expand, so it's going to need to expand into District 2. It's going to need to expand a little bit into District 4. It's going to need to expand into District 3. District 2 has a little bit room for growth to also pull maybe a little bit from 4. So I would like to see as a 4th map just a new balanced population approach that doesn't go as extreme as the current version.
So if I could.
Is that his?
If I could, Councilmember Rodriguez, I am aware that, Councilmember Rodriguez?
And actually, I didn't see Joel's map. Joel's map might actually do that, so. Yeah.
If I could say, I'm aware that District 2 wanted to go closer to the 76. So at some point, District 2 can, like maybe in 10 years, that will be the change that will happen, so that District 1, where you see that there's going to be more growth, will be more balanced between Districts 1 and 2. But right now, there isn't that. Right now, District 1 lost population probably, I mean, I don't know, but vacation rentals might be the reason along the coast. But you're right, there is going to be growth in the next 10 years going out east. But I think that is what I heard, at least from a couple of the meetings, that maybe 76 could be a boundary at some future time for District 2, except where it gets to the Jeffries Ranch community. Deputy McKime.
So I think we could actually probably come to something pretty easily. So if since when you looked at the map list as Joel's map, it made that little correction. I think that's such a minor adjustment from versions A and B. If we just brought those back, if we just brought A, that's enough. It gives us enough latitude on that day to make a small change like that. So it just gives us the broad framework tonight. So we can just do A and B and bring those two. And I think that gives us a decent draft to work from and then make those little adjustments. But
we could also do live mapping tonight too as well. Okay. Our demographer is here, and I believe we could do that tonight.
Absolutely.
So the one concern I have with Joel's map is it splits it at Galbar. So when you go south of College, that's a significant community of interest. So you see where it goes on Thunder. So it splits that neighborhood in two. That's the only difference. So south of College, south and east of College.
So what if we added that? What district do you want to add that back into so they could do it right now? Put it back into 3. Are you able to put it back into 3? Can you show a live map on that?
Yes, so for Joel's map, you want to move this, this section, just so I'm clear. What section would you like to move from which district to?
I think it's important, so Joel's map, it needs to include, that.
I didn't see Joel's map, sorry, I don't.
It's up here.
Oh.
So pretty much south of Oceanside Boulevard, add back into 3, right?
Yeah, we could actually do it. I mean, even Olive, Olive might be a better dividing line than Thomas Street. Thomas is just, or Galbar. Galbar's a smaller neighborhood street, so that's one neighbor on one side of the street on a residential street is on a different district than that one, whereas you have Olive is more major thoroughfare.
Okay, so let's have
Okay. This is the Tri-City area, right? The other diverse community, Tri-City
Correct.
area.
I'm trying to
John
keep that
Landis
together. Yes,
area?
I'm trying to keep John Landis together.
Okay.
Okay, so let me open that for editing, and then I will make that change, and you can see the populations move.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Tri-City.
Right.
So this is called the pending changes window, and this will show you basically what the new statistics would be should you approve the potential change. So I'll go back to that area here, and I heard direction to move it from Galbar Street, move it up further.
To Olive, please.
To Olive Street.
So that it'll take in.
That will go into District 3.
So the John Landis area has always been in District 3, or has been in District 3,
Correct.
right? So his map had it in District 4?
Correct.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's keep it in District 3.
So then so Diamond Circle, Alabar, and Esperanza are significantly different than Teresa, Galbar, and Chasen.
So here's Galbar, and then when I'm clicking on our census blocks, and these are your building blocks for districts, and you'll see that the numbers will be live changing in this pending changes window.
Okay.
So should we make this change in red, these would be your new numbers. Going up here to Olive.
So, and just Olive east of College, please. There you go. That's it. That's it.
Okay, so that would bring District 3 to 4.45% deviation above and 4 to minus 3.78%. Is there consensus to make this change?
This is map number 3?
And this is on
Joel's map.
what's titled Joel's map, which is also identified as the submission ending in 5757.
Oh, and I know why. I know what the difference is. Where it jumped up to 4 instead of where the other ones it was. District 3 was at 4. So it would keep all the season streets in District 4, as long as that happens. Again, no, it's still,
Okay, so I'll make that-
District 3 is still above though, so that's the challenge.
I'll make that change and then zoom out so you can look at the whole map with that change. And yeah, one part of the difference in why this is a little bit higher than the other visualizations we threw is down here by the coast. You'll see that we have actually, again, as I mentioned, we have to follow census blocks. And so we have this one block, and I'll click on it, that goes between 1 and 3. And so that's kind of sticking down. And so in our visualizations, we actually followed the railway here, which you can see goes right below Oceanside Boulevard and is actually in your neighborhood file, not part of South Oceanside. So we moved it down there. Okay, what if we followed the creek?
I don't know how the census block allowed it.
Well, there's a mobile home park there. That's the La Salina. That's 2 mobile home parks right there.
Yeah, Cavalier is on both sides of
Cavalier and La Salina.
How did they get around this before? Split the census block?
Councilmember Rodriguez, your microphone is off.
Sorry, how did we get around this unique sliver before?
Yeah, so one of the things that happened was last time you were using 2010 census data as well as 2010 census blocks. And so in the last 10 years, the census changed those blocks. And actually, as a result, California lost some blocks. And so some blocks that used to be 2 are now 1. So this was probably 2 before. And that's where your split was previously. But now it is 1 block and has to be kept together.
Nothing else, we could get public feedback on it.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense to give from 3 in that area to 1, but you know, I don't know how we're going to split that up.
So can we just go with A and B, and then we can, so A and B, and then we can work on these little details over the next few weeks and get feedback? I mean, that right there gets...
That looks good.
Yeah, I just wanted, this is option A. And so again, as I said, we follow the railway here. And that's where we changed slightly to kind of make it look a little less weird.
Yeah, so A, and then we can combine that with Joel's map, the revised Joel's map. I think that'll get, but we could still, if we just take those notes and then we can finalize that the next time. But I think that might.
I like that cleaner shape, by the way, just that you just showed. But yeah, I agree.
Okay, so let me just move this in so we can have the clean shape now, and then I'll zoom out and you can choose which. I'm hearing draft map A, or we'll select draft visualization A as draft map A, and then will B or C be part of it? Because I've heard both things throughout the council, so I just want to summarize.
Yeah.
I haven't seen A and B till tonight. I'd like to see those. I'd like to look at those a little further before I just.
And that's exactly, I mean, these draft maps, you're not married to them.
Yeah.
Any maps you'd like to see come back, I would recommend choosing as draft maps. And then they'll be posted for the public to weigh in on.
That change was due.
Yeah, so that's the change now. It's at 3.66 for Joel's map.
Oh, that's
Just
better.
the same as all of the visualizations I provided.
I like that.
So, and can I ask Joel's map? Joel, not here. What was the change between current and his? Was it just between 3 and 4?
Yeah. So let me turn on your current boundaries, and I'll show you those differences. So your current boundary runs between 4 and 1 on Rancho del Oro, and he moved it up, or the submission moves it up to, I believe this is Ivy Ranch. Let me zoom in. Yeah, so Ivy Ranch Road, and so picked up population there for 1. This submission also keeps this community together on River Tree Drive, which our visualizations do as well.
But that does bring down the Latino population.
I can pull up the statistics for this right now, so you can see behind here we have the statistics, and so for District 1, the Latino CVAP is here, which is at 31.31% for District 1. and District 2 is at 32.18%. District 3 is at 22.66%, and District 4 is at 25.91% for this version of revised submittal 22 or Joel's map.
And what is it now?
What is in your current boundaries?
Yeah.
Your current boundaries are both around 32% or 31%. Again, one is very underpopulated, so that's.
Yeah, I like that.
If it picked up that other piece along the 76, would that have raised the Latino population?
Sorry,
that would be option A, right? Was that option A?
So in option A, just turn it on again here. It picks up this area here.
Is that the same then?
And is it? Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The differences within the Latino populations.
Yes, let me just pull up those data one moment. I don't want to give an incorrect number. So for option A, we have, turning that on for you, pull up data view. So go over. For District 1 in option A, we have 31%, so 31.19 and 32.1% for District 2, 22.66 and 26.12 for 3 and 4.
Yeah, that changes. It's.
I think we've got a good enough draft and framework to move forward and then work on this as we go.
So that's 3 maps, A, B, and Joel's? Is that what you're saying?
Modified Joel's.
Modified Joel's?
Correct.
Is that going to be a new option C?
I thought it was going to be A merged with his. That's what we.
Yeah, it was like a because we went along the train tracks near the coast, and then the community we added in for District 3.
We updated A.
Yep, but for Joel's, yep.
Okay, so to repeat back, we'll have 3 draft maps posted on your website. The first one will be draft map A, and that will be the exact same as we showed you for visualization A. The second one, if I'm understanding, will be visualization B, posted as draft map B. And then the third one will be this revised map that you've made changes to tonight, which was formerly Joel's map, and we can post that as draft map C if that's okay.
Yep.
Title-wise.
Can I ask another question? As to the A and B options, do those also incorporate the changes on the coast for that odd-looking extra census block?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Good.
Thank you, Council, for that direction. I look forward to coming back again.
I'm glad we kept going.
Well, I'm glad that Tri-City area is kept in District 3. And those, and I'm fairly certain we're going to get a lot more people at the next council meeting. So we've given direction.
That's Lamar.
No vote necessary because we basically have given, kind of talked about 3 potential maps. So we're on item number 10 now. Do we need anything else to?
No.
Do we need to discuss anything else? Okay.
No, but Madam Mayor, we do probably need a break so our demographer could get her computer system out and we could transfer back to the city's computer system.
5 after 7. Good.
Yeah, that would be enough.
7 minutes. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break till 5 after 7 o'clock. Resume our City Council meeting. We are on public hearing item number 10, and that is introduction of an ordinance amending Article 30, Section 3006 of the zoning ordinance and adoption of a resolution establishing the amended text as part of the implementing document of the Local Coastal Program, the LCP, to incorporate revisions to the accessory dwelling units, ADU, ordinance, and fully implement all provisions as prescribed by state law. I'm going to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from my fellow council members regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff, I move approval.
Staff. Second.
No public comment, no public contact.
Staff.
All right, Mr. Navarro, do we have any correspondence and or petitions?
We have not received any correspondence on this item.
Right, so we're going to go ahead and begin the testimony with Mr. D, Senior Planner, City of Oceanside.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and
Demowski?
Council members.
No. Yeah?
Rob D. Mahowski,
Okay,
Senior
there you
Planner
go.
with the Planning
Okay.
Division, here this evening to present revisions to the accessory dwelling unit ordinance. The request includes a zone amendment to Article 30, Section 3006 of the zoning ordinance and a local coastal program to incorporate revisions to the ADU ordinance and to fully implement provisions as described by state law. The state legislature enacted additional ADU legislation in 2020 intended to further reduce the regulatory barriers and for the construction of ADUs. In response to the state mandates, the City Council adopted revisions to the ADU ordinance in August of 2020. In December of 2020, the California Department of Housing and Community Development issued a ADU handbook that provided local jurisdictions a summary of changes to ADU law, clarification of ambiguities found in the government code, and also guidance on implementation of mandated zoning and development standards. In last year, there was also new legislation affecting implementation of ADU law. Assembly Bill 345 amended the government code to simplify the process for nonprofit organizations who own a property to be able to build and sell an ADU to a lower income household. And Senate Bill 9, which became effective on January 1st of this year, allows the construction of no more than 2 dwelling units and a urban lot split of a parcel into 2 lots. These units are not considered ADUs, but the law does allow ADUs and junior ADUs to be built in conjunction with an SB 9 project. However, the law also allows the city to prohibit ADUs and junior ADUs in conjunction with SB 9 projects. Staff is proposing focused revisions to the accessory dwelling unit ordinance that includes adding clarifying language and edits for better implementation of the ordinance and to fully implement all state mandated provisions. Furthermore, the additional language is intended to assist with the enforcement of specific conditions of approval associated with the construction of an ADU or a junior ADU. I'd like to take the opportunity to highlight some of the key revisions to the ordinance. First, as allowed under state law, a new provision shall not permit ADUs or junior ADUs in conjunction with a lot split and dwelling unit constructed under SB 9 provisions. Per SB 9, a single family lot potentially be subdivided into 2 parcels with 2 units built on each of those lots. And if ADUs were allowed, it would allow 1 ADU and 1 junior ADU on those lots. So each lot would have 4 units for a project total of 8 units. So by prohibiting the ADUs on those lots, a project would be limited to 2 units per parcel. The revision will include a definition of owner occupancy as it applies exclusively to junior accessory dwelling units. And junior units are required to be built within the footprint of the primary dwelling. Mm-hmm. Per the ordinance and state law, a property owner of record must live on the premises of if a JDU is constructed. In recent months, the city has received building permit applications for junior ADUs where the property is owned by a limited liability corporation or a similar entity. Since LLCs are often not individuals, it has been difficult for staff to verify if the owner will actually live on the property. To bring clarity to this issue, the definition states that a natural person with legal or equitable title to the property must reside on the property as the person's legal domicile and permanent residence. A new provision will prohibit the use of dual-cylinder deadbolt locks for egress doors within any of the dwelling units. Dual-cylinder deadbolts are typically locks that require a key to unlock on both sides of the doors and are used to limit access or partition off a building. An example is in a hotel room where that partition door is locked from both sides. The prohibition is intended to prevent the ability to partition off a portion of a dwelling for the use as a unpermitted short-term rental, for example, or as a separate dwelling unit. And finally, the revision will include additional methods that an ADU and a junior ADU can be built in combination on the same parcel. Under previous law, a junior unit could be built, but the new ADU had to be detached, new construction. The law was changed to allow a junior unit to be built within the primary house, and then the new ADU could be built within the footprint of the existing house as an addition to the primary house, conversion of an existing accessory structure, attached or detached, or the construction of a new detached ADU. The city continues to recognize the importance of ADUs as a source of housing and continues to support streamlining for homeowners in Oceanside. Since 2018, the city has seen 350 building permits for ADUs. Last year alone, there were 123 applications, and as of this year, there have already been 20 applications submitted. The proposed revisions will help remove ambiguities and provide better implementation and understanding of ADU provisions for both city staff and the general public. The changes will strengthen the effectiveness of the ADU ordinance and will assist staff with the enforcement of all conditions of approval provided in the ADU ordinance. The Planning Commission also considered the proposal on December 14th of 2021, and by a 5-0 vote recommended approval of the amendments. As such, staff recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance amending Article 30, Section 3006 of the zoning ordinance and adopt a resolution establishing the amended text as part of the implementing document of the local coastal program. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any written requests to speak?
We do not have any written requests to speak on this item.
Okay. This is the time for the public to speak. You do not have to have submitted a request previously. You can approach the podium and give your name and speak for up to 3 minutes on this item. I see no one getting rising, so I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing. And Deputy Mayor Keim.
After going over this prior to the meeting, I was going to recommend approval of the ordinance, but I want to give my colleagues a chance to speak.
You're going to move introduction of the ordinance, right? Councilmember Rodriguez.
Quick question. We received updates from staff with respect to the draft revised housing element and some modifications under Program 5 for accessory dwelling units where the anticipated number of ADUs per year was reduced from 80 to 32. And then tonight we're moving on state revisions that in my mind are going to forecast a significant number of increased ADUs. So how is that going to reconcile itself with what we're voting on tonight compared to the housing element and the reduction of forecasts?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Rodriguez, the revision was requested by HCD based on a 3-year average beginning, and I believe it was 2017 or 2018 through 2020. So at the beginning of when the new ADU legislation went into effect, we saw an increase. So in 2016, I believe we had around 30 units. 2017 went up to 40 and progressively went up. So taking the average on that, it lowered it to 32. And that was based on, I believe they also wanted units that were actually permits that were issued rather than in progress. So that significantly deducted that number. However, any unit that is built will still count towards our remaining RENA obligation.
Okay. So there's no way to counter that with the HCD because after I got elected, we moved on our own policies separate from the state on trying to increase, public awareness, the website, the video staff put together to get ADUs, and we've noticed a significant increase. So I didn't know, is there any benefit to trying to get them? I mean, in the end, we're going to count it toward our numbers, but is there any benefit in going back to them to say, hey, here's why we think it's going to be this versus complying with their recommendations?
Councilmember, absolutely, we can provide additional information to HCD during our next review. And they're looking for documentation on permits that are issued and finalized. So if we have that record showing that we have built or have units under construction well above that number, we could potentially get credit for that and have it forecasted at a higher number, which would help our.
It would benefit us to go. So yeah, because we moved on policy as a council. I did a council agenda item. We got on board. Staff put an amazing streamlined process together. And there has been a significant uptick in ADUs. So I think presenting the case that, hey, we took initiative as a city to relieve our RENA numbers by offering more incentives and streamlined processing, can we get more credit for the ADUs? Because going back to 2016 and using those averages is just it's not reality. So, I would like to see staff go back and try to get more credit for that to help us if it will benefit our city.
Thank you. So we do have a motion to introduce the ordinance and adopt the resolution, and a second. Councilmember Jensen.
Where'd he go?
He's here. Mr. D.
Podium.
I had a question about number 5. So you're saying these are all state mandated provisions and state law? No. And I don't feel comfortable with the deadbolt provision that would require going in somebody's house to enforce. This is something that would happen within the confines of their own home. And would code enforcement then go in and say, hey, there's a deadbolt?
Councilmember Jensen, my understanding is enforcement would occur if a unit was under construction, and as part of the inspections for the building permit, if those types of locks were noticed, they would be told to remove them. I would defer to the code enforcement on how enforcement action is taken against complaints related to units that may be rented without permission, or if there's a unit under construction.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with something that would allow code enforcement to go into somebody's home because somebody sends an email saying, I saw a deadbolt.
Honorable Mayor and council members, and I could probably provide a little bit of background on this because I have had some direct conversations with different properties in which this has been an issue. And first and foremost, it would be on a complaint basis. I know that may not completely satisfy your concerns, but typically it would be only on a complaint basis. But we have had situations that I've personally been involved in which we have had property owners that have effectively illegally subdivided homes, and one way in which they do that is to install double-sided deadbolts, which prevents the free flow of residents from one side of a house to another. And so it is a tool. It is, obviously would be complaint-based, but it is a tool, and unfortunately it does happen, and we don't really have any tools in place to prevent that from happening, which it really shouldn't be. It does actually pose a safety concern if you've got double-sided deadbolts and, residents can't get from one house to the other in the event of an emergency.
All right, I'm not comfortable with that. If it is the law that this has to be in here, then we don't have any recourse, correct?
It's not a state mandate that you have it. It's something that we've developed along with, I would say, point number 2 here as well, to deal with specific problems that we've been having on a particular street in Oceanside where someone has purchased a number of properties and effectively, as Mr. Borrego said, subdivided by putting multiple households within the same house.
All right. Councilmember Rodriguez?
Well, I agree with Councilmember Jensen on this. I think unless photographic evidence is provided to staff, you know, I've personally experienced somebody, because I was running for election, say, hey, this guy's doing this, and then they went through and found unpermitted stuff that was done, you know, 15 years ago before I owned the property. So it's kind of like opens the door for issues. And so in what way can we prevent this from being misused by a neighbor that just wants to complain and then the city wants to go inspect? Like, how do we prevent that?
I think that there's usually a larger issue having to do with illegal vacation rentals, right?
Well, in the particular issue that we've been having has actually been with not necessarily vacation rentals, although it does happen with vacation rentals as well.
Right.
But it happens with ADUs. We've seen it happen with all sorts of different situations, and it is a concern of staffs. And I can appreciate, unfortunately, there are occasions where people file complaints and kind of send us out to take a look at something like that. I would like to think that we do try to be very reasonable and judicious in terms of what we investigate, but
also rehab homes, right? That are more than rehab homes, rehab
it
facilities.
Could exist in any number of situations. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
we don't legally have the right to just go in someone's house and inspect. It's usually would be on a consent basis, and in an egregious situation, we've asked for an inspection warrant from a court, and a court would have to independently review it and determine whether to grant that warrant or not. But those are rare.
Deputy Mayor Keim?
Yeah, I think this is an important thing, especially when you're seeing SB 9 and 10 and turning a single family home into a triplex or more. And so to do this and make sure that it's actually one single family home is important. So I'd like to move forward and vote. Thank you.
Okay. There is a motion and a second. Mr. Mullen, please title the ordinance.
Thank you. This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Article 30, Section 3006 of the zoning ordinance to establish revised accessory dwelling unit regulations conforming to the provisions of Government Code Sections 65852.22 and 65852.22. They both say 22, so there you go.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Jensen, no.
Thank you. And so we're at the end of the agenda. Any general council member comments? No? Okay, just really quickly here. There's so many things happening downtown Oceanside. The city is really coming alive for Valentine's Day, which is this coming Monday. You've got the Sweetheart Sunset Market this tomorrow. I Wish You Knew, which is an exhibit by artist Andres Hernandez at the Hill Street Country Club, fourth Thursdays for the next 4 weeks, starting tomorrow. It's a poetry workshop. Also, you've got, a lot of things here. The Play That Goes Wrong at the Star Theater, Valentine's Weekend at Pacific Coast Spirits, Artist Awakening, again this Friday at Artist Alley, Black History Month at Oceanside Public Library and Star Theater. You've got the North County African American Women's Association having Black History programs through February. A lot of really cool things. And in terms of food, oh my gosh, Valentine's Day pop-up, Jet Fuel Coffee Company. And the Super Bowl Sunday at the Rooftop Bar. Super Bowl Sunday at Northern Pine Brewing, Valentine's Day at 333 Pacific Street, also at the Blade and at the Carte Blanche. Executive Chef Alex Carballo is preparing a Valentine's 5-course dinner on Monday that includes oysters and caviar. Valentine's Day at Coomber's, Valentine's Day at Frankie's, Valle Wine Dinner. That's a 4-course wine pairing featuring Chef Roberto Alcocer. Museum Month and Oceanside International Film Festival happening February 22nd through February 27th at the Brooks. So lots happening in February. Hope you enjoy. Happy Valentine's Day. We love Oceanside. Meeting adjourned to Wednesday, February 23rd at 3:30. Thank you.